Welcome to In Confidence, where what we share in confidence helps us grow in confidence. This is a two-part series that we're going to be doing on social media. And let's start off with why we went down this road. At the beginning of the summer, our 16-year-old summer intern told us that she has a phone, but she's not allowed to have social media, Instagram, Snapchat. We did make a case for LinkedIn professionally. And she said her parents told her all the research, all the data, she still wants it. And her parents basically said, if you can make a good, solid argument for why you should have it, we will consider it. And so one of our intern projects was to help her put a pitch deck, essentially a PowerPoint together around why she wants social media, what's in it for her parents, how does she offset some of the downsides they foresee. And so for the last 8 weeks, we've been having, as a team, a conversation about social media. I want to also put in the mix that one of our former interns, who's now in college, came by for lunch, and we told her that this is one of our intern projects for our intern. And she said, oh, well, I got it around the same age, but I actually deactivated my social media last summer. And we got into a whole conversation about that. Our chief of staff, Claire, has actually changed her relationship with social media. And I just thought, why don't we have a two-part examination on social media? Because myself, as a 45-year-old woman who did not grow up with a smartphone in my hand, I've always had a very conflicted relationship with it. And so we went down a deep Google hole and ChatGPT hole and AI, whatever hole you want to go down, to really think through what is happening with our brains with social media, how do we think about our relationship with it, and how do we contribute to it in a way that makes us feel good. So this is now your two-part primer on social media. The first part is going to be all about how do we rethink our relationship with social media? And then the second episode that we're going to release later this week is all about how we post, pause, and protect our mindset when we engage on social media. So today's episode, I'm really excited because we're going to dive into a bit of the brain science and psychology behind what social media is doing to our brains. And then we're going to talk about a strategy and approach to build a healthy relationship. Because we've heard all the warnings. I was telling my team, I said, I think this is like telling someone they should eat their vitamins and exercise, right? It is like so boring to talk about all of the negative effects on social media. And so we've kind of like reframed it. Because every time you're reading something or a piece of research, it's like, okay, don't scroll before bed. Social media is bad for your mental health. It's the junk food of the digital age. And at the same time, I'm sort of thinking to myself, but we still want it. And I really wanted to dive into why we want it. Because just like junk food, it's fun, it's satisfying, it's convenient, but really in the right portion and with a healthy relationship with it. And so how do we almost approach social media the way we approach diet or nutrition, with thoughtfulness, with planning, with awareness, and with a sense that it can be a part of our lives, but in a way that if we have the right relationship with it, it can be satisfying. So one way I thought would be helpful, because it was enlightening for me, and I know there have been so many books written about it, so many great books like Jonathan Haidt's book, Anxious Generation, so many scientists are posting about it. But I thought today I would give you what I think of as the old school Reader's Digest. And some of you might remember the Reader's Digest. I loved the Reader's Digest in the 80s and 90s because it gave you a little snapshot of some interesting thinking. I thought we would share with you a quick 3-minute overview around what social media is doing to your brain. It's like that old school commercial around like the man with the frying pan, and he would open and crack the eggs and he was like, this is your brain, and then this is your brain on drugs. Let me tell you what's happening. So let's start off with first, what is the reward system and the dopamine relationship around social media? The mesolimbic, I'm going to get this wrong, the mesolimbic dopamine pathway is evolved to reward behaviors that ensured survival. So eating calorie-rich food, forming social bonds, and exploring new environments. So that is actually the dopamine pathway that has evolved in our systems. Social media likes or junk food, sugar, or fat, they actually hit and stimulate this same pathway that releases dopamine and creates a wanting or craving signal in your body, even before you get the thing. So even just thinking about it makes you crave it or want it. And so someone on our team said today, like, it's almost like second nature. When I open my phone, the first place I go is Instagram. It's almost like instinct because your brain is craving that exploration. And then the dopamine spike you get, it tells your brain, hey, do it again. Not because it's healthy for me, but because it's rewarding in that moment. I want to contrast that with another part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. It's the one that is responsible for impulse control, long-term planning, creative thinking. And that part of your brain knows all of the data. It knows, hey, screen time is not good for me. Sugar isn't good for me. The problem is that the limbic system, this emotion and reward center that has that dopamine pathway, it actually reacts faster than the prefrontal cortex. And it actually reacts not just faster, but more powerfully rewards immediacy. So what ends up happening is it actually shows up first, and then it gives you a huge boost for an immediate instant gratification, more so than it thinks about the abstract future risk of doing something. So I want this Doritos potato chip. It's so delicious right now. I'm not going to think about what impact that has on my calorie intake or my long-term health. And what happened is that human evolution did not prepare us for environments where high reward stimuli would be available to us 24/7 without effort or risk. So there is something, I think, in your body that if you eat too many chips, like, there will be a physical reaction. When it comes to social media, it's available to you anytime you want, unless your phone dies. And there's actually no like physical fatigue or like I'm full or I can't eat another chip. And so the risk and the effort involved is so low that it's a constant way in which we think about rewarding ourselves with it. Now, both social media and junk food use what we call the variable ratio reinforcement. And it's when you are rewarding your brain in a way where the rewards are unpredictable in their timing or their size. So when you're in social media land, you don't know when you'll get a like, a comment, or a post, right? It's actually got this very variability to it. Just like in junk food, the flavor, the texture, even the packaging are designed to be novel enough to keep you interested, to keep you consuming it. And so this unpredictability makes the habit loop stronger and harder to break. It's actually the same habit loop and principle used in slot machines. Now, that piece of information blew my mind, that social media is designed to be like a slot machine, that you keep feeding that slot machine because there's variability in what you're gonna get out of it, but you're so chasing that reward. I think what's happened is this has created a neurochemical mismatch with modern life, because our ancestors, and it's actually, I shouldn't even say ancestors, it's not that long ago, because I grew up in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, this is back before even Friendster. But previous generations, they actually only occasionally feasted when it came to social praise and this kind of reward. And so what would happen is they would have a short dopamine burst or rise when they got praised by their peers, but then it would normalize because it wasn't accessible to them 24/7. Modern technology, processed foods, they all keep our dopamine elevated at such a high level that frequency and that high level of dopamine in our system, it actually desensitizes our receptors over time. So it makes us need more for the same level of feeling. And that's just what's fascinating to me, is that we're so overwhelmed by that dopamine hit that we keep chasing it and everything gets desensitized. I think this is why some people have said, I'm going to take a social media fast for a month just to reset my life, reset my brain. neurochemically, that's true. That actually brings your dopamine levels down to a normal level. This was really helpful for me because we can be told all day long, don't do something, don't scroll, don't have brain rot, don't. But when you think about the neuroscience behind it, it starts to make you think differently about what is happening. And when I liken social media to junk food, for me, as someone who loves junk food, you will never meet someone who doesn't love junk food more than me. Although there may be my best friend, maybe. It actually made me rethink, okay, well, when I was eating unhealthfully, I got a nutritionist. I put together a plan. I had a strategy. At the time, I had gotten to a BMI that was really obese. So I put together a program and a thoughtfulness to how I had treated my nutrition. And that's what I want to introduce you to today, which is how do we break the cycle of our brain's want system? How do we keep it from being overactive? And how do we keep ourselves from chasing something that's less and less satisfying over time? Because that's essentially what social media is. And I think it comes down to how do we create a healthy relationship? And so I want to talk through what that looks like in terms of putting together a strategy. We've come up with really, I would say, a 4-part plan as you think about creating balance when it comes to social media. The first part of that plan is not all social media is the same. And so you can list off every single platform you want to participate in. LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X, Substack. There's so many ways, Blue Sky, right? There are so many platforms out there. And I think if you step back and you say, okay, which of these platforms do I feel deserve my time? And I love, I think it's being memed right now, Taylor Swift's thing of we're luxury items and not everyone can afford us. So decide who you want to invest in because they do not all deserve you equally. I would say think about which of these platforms have meaning to you and you can have a relationship with. So here's a simple shorthand. Each of these platforms almost has an archetype. If it's LinkedIn, that's networking, that's career focus, that's building connection that can further my professional life. TikTok, maybe it's edutainment, right? It's entertaining, it's educational, all of those things. It might be a place for discovery. Instagram, discovery, connection. You know, there's a lot of things that you could tie to that channel. Facebook, I think for me at least, over time, it's become a place for family. It tends to be actually where my older family members still are there. I'm actually still on Facebook because I adopted a puppy and there is a private group for the breeder where there's 100 families that have all adopted dogs from the same breeder and we all stay connected through that platform. So my dog is my family and that's what I think of for that. Substack, it's a place where I can get really cool content from authors and media content creators I admire. But I think the first step in defining your relationship with social media is figure out what each platform means to you and choose the platforms that matter. I think the second thing you want to do, and we will have a downloadable PDF because it was helpful for me. I actually did it by hand. So I have a hand-drawn version of the PDF that we are going to formalize on the website. And I actually created 4 columns to this PDF. What I decided to do is for each of the platforms I want to engage in, I created a column that says, first, what's in it for me? What do I want from this space? The second column was, what are the pitfalls? What are the things that could go wrong that are counter to my objectives for being there? The third column was, what is this not for me? You know, what am I not going to do or get from this platform? And the last one is, when I contribute or post to it, what do I want to say about myself and what do I want to make sure is out there? And so I loved this because I think it's really important for us to be more thoughtful the way we think about our nutrition, right? The way you think about your exercise routine, anything that really matters to your emotional, mental health, it is important to step back and have a strategy for it. So I'm going to share with you my own personal way in which I filled out the columns. So I took Instagram and I said, okay, my lens for Instagram is going to be curiosity, connection, and compassion. Those are the three things that matter to me from a value standpoint when I think about that platform. And so what's in it for me? I said, okay, you know what? From a curiosity standpoint, what's in it for me? The first area that I see is really what I think of as passive consumption. So learning, entertainment, discovery, fandom, I discover where to eat, what to buy. It was very funny. I love figuring out which restaurants I'm going to go to in New York because there are these food influencers that go and try everything out. My friend Vicky Nguyen at NBC News, she posted that Golden Hoff, which just opened in my neighborhood, was serving the Golden Diner pancakes, which if you don't know New York, you have to wait in line for 2 or 3 hours to get the Golden Diner pancakes. You don't have to wait in line in Midtown at Golden Hoff. She posted that she had them, and I literally went and had them that night. So I think of, for me, from a curiosity standpoint, Instagram has a passive consumption element to it where I can just discover things, be entertained. I follow some really funny comics who post really funny reels, and it's just an escape and discovery zone for me. The second thing I was thinking about was, what do I want from Instagram? I thought about connection, whether it's personal, professional, community. I want to stay connected with my friends, what they're up to. I want to pebble them. So I love that Adam Grant talked about penguins leave each other pebbles to demonstrate that they're thinking of someone. So he said every time you DM somebody a really funny video or a post from Instagram, you're pebbling them, you're showing them that you're thinking about them and caring about them. And specifically, a lot of times I'll meet somebody casually, like I walk my dog. We met another dog and that dog's mom, and we want to schedule a play date. And I didn't want to give that person my phone number because I don't know them that well. I said, are you on Instagram? Should we just DM on Instagram and decide when we want to meet up in the park? So it's a low risk way of staying connected to acquaintances or people you've met for the first time. And then I was thinking about the third thing it plays in my life, which is a combination of compassion and connection, which is it's a place for me where I want to share joy. I want to hype and celebrate other people in my life so that they get more exposure and awareness, share insights that can be helpful to people's lives. I want to sometimes be a discovery point for others. Like if there's a great female chef and I did end up going to her restaurant, I want to hype her and celebrate her and make sure other people go to her restaurant and support her and celebrate her. Obviously, I think that person will love being validated, but I don't do it because I want that person to be validated. I want it because I want other people to go and support her with their dollars and their time and their energy. And so I was thinking about, okay, that's what's in it for me. Those are things that are important to me. Everything from cute dog videos to new restaurants to go to me wanting to share some of the joy and insights I'm getting in my life because I think they'll be helpful to others. I believe that for every benefit, we have to be aware of the downsides. And so the second column of my sheet that I created was like, okay, so I go into this eyes wide open. And I wish I had done this when we got into the platforms at the beginning because I think it would have saved me a lot of heartache. Downsides. I would say for the discovery standpoint and that curiosity standpoint, it's easy to get trapped by consumerism. There are so many times where I've like added to cart or thought about buying something and I'm like, do I really need that? It's easy to get trapped up in a cycle of consumerism, and that is so easy to do when you're already scrolling and watching and commenting and liking and posting. And so I do think that is a downside. The second one I would say is in this point around connection, this is where every platform has its traps. FOMO, unrealistic comparisons, celebrity idolization, envy. You know, when you see friends posting, you might feel FOMO. I definitely feel FOMO sometimes if I'm not invited or I'm like, oh my gosh, they're like nearby and they didn't reach out to me. They're in New York and they didn't tell me. I think there is absolutely a lot of pitfalls. And this is actually one of the reasons one of our former interns got off of it. She's like, I was studying abroad and I realized I was missing out on that experience because I was wondering what everyone else was doing when I already know what my close friend group is doing. And so it triggered her in terms of comparison and having to keep up and post her great trips and all of those things. I think, especially if you're not feeling strong, you got to avoid spaces that trigger you. And going into, and we're going to talk a lot about this a little bit later, like you really want to be able to offset this downside by tapping into the abundance and things in your life, because people only share 10% of what's really going on for them. You know, every positive post or thing that they're sharing, you know, there's some really dark stuff probably happening, just like there is in your life. I also see another downside, which I'm really conflicted about when I post things, because I am not a superhero. I don't believe in superhero facade. And I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression about my life being amazing. I felt this really intensely when I was on book tour, and it almost felt like shameless self-promotion. It made me uncomfortable. And my literary agent, Andy, who I love, basically said, this book will change lives. And you do have to post, because the more you do, the more chance we have of allowing people to benefit from the insights and all the deep research that you and your team have done over the years to help people feel better and feel more confident. And so it feels shameless to you. It feels like, oh my gosh, my life is so perfect. But really, it's a vehicle for you to share your insights. And it's funny, somebody I haven't seen in a while was texting me saying, oh my God, it looks like you're crushing it. I follow you on social media. And I said, FYI, everything looks better on social media. That is only the good stuff. Let me be clear. There are so many things that are not going well behind the scenes that I'm really fighting through. And she goes, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that. That's a relief. Like, I totally know what it means to be like social media happy, like just making sure everyone knows that you're awesome. I think that when we do that, it puts a stress that, look, I don't want to always have to be amazing. And that leads me to the third column, which is what it's not. And for me personally, I've made a choice in the last few years. And in fact, if you go back through my Instagram grid, you can actually see a defining line that happened around 2018, 2019. I think before 2018, 2019, it was definitely almost a dump for my personal life. And I've kept it there because it's a lovely archive. But what I'm eating, things that I'm doing, my friends, you know, I've decided that there are parts of my personal life that I just want to share with my group text thread, my family text thread, my friend text thread, seeing people in person, engaging with them. And so I've kept a lot of my home life now off of social media, pretty much across the board, but Instagram in particular. The rare thing that I have posted about my personal life is on my stories. I post about my puppy because I think my puppy Ripple brings people joy. And if she doesn't, you need to DM me and say you're posting too many videos and photos of your dog. But that was one part of myself that I decided to keep private for myself. And I recognize it could make it feel less human, like I'm not a real person, but it was my relationship with Instagram that I actually, when I was writing this all out, I was like, you know what? I actually walked away from this. So I think there's an important analysis around, what is this not for you? What do you decide is not a part of your engagement with this platform? The fourth column is, how do I contribute what I post? We're going to do that in the episode that's landing later this week, so I'm going to hold on that. But I found this exercise incredibly helpful. It is what, frankly, brands and companies, what we do on the company side of us, they're super strategic about how they use the channel. And the more you do that, the more you have an opportunity to have a really healthy, balanced relationship with it. You know, one of the things I stopped doing, and it's interesting, is I stopped seeking validation from the platform. And I think that's one other thing I want to talk about, which is, what is your mindset? How do you approach the channels? Once you've kind of done this, what's in it for me? What's the role of it in my life? What do I not want it to be? What are the downsides? I think there's a question around what's your mindset when you do click on that icon on your phone? And I would like to leave you with some thoughts around the mindset. I think you have to have, or I at least try to have, I don't want to say you have to have. I think we all need to try to have a state of abundance when we click on that. And that's really hard because, as you all know from previous episodes, like episode 4, most of us live in a deficit mindset with our inner critic showing up before the best version of ourselves does. And so I do think there's a ton of the work that we do around gravitas, which is seeing the best in yourself before anyone else does, seeing the abundance in your life, seeing all the amazing things you already have in your life, bringing that to the platform. What that allows you to do is you can like your friends' posts. You can comment on them. You don't feel envy. You don't feel comparison because you recognize you're only seeing the 10% that someone's willing to show. And people usually show their best moments because they want to feel seen, or they want to share that happiness, or they want to share that joy, or they want to share an insight that's made a difference in their own life with the people that are in their community on social media. And so if that's the case and they're showing you the best of themselves, then what you need to do is bring your best self to how you react to it, how you view it. I think the other thing that is part of this mindset is not seeking validation from it. And I'm going to share a story about this, which is when you post a story on Instagram, you can actually scroll up on the panel and you can see how many people have viewed it, who has viewed it, and if you've got any hearts or like emoji icons or reactions to it. And there was a moment where I had been ghosted by a guy I was dating and he still followed me on Instagram. And every time I posted a story, I would swipe up to see if he had viewed the story because I was like, oh my gosh, he ghosted me. Is he still engaged in seeing my life? And it mattered to me if he saw the story or not. I don't know why, but it was this weird sense of validation that I needed to know. I needed him to know that my life was amazing. And I got into this really dark cycle of every time I posted something on my story, I would keep swiping up to see if he liked it or if he saw it. And after about a week of this, I just said, you know what? First of all, I'm going to delete him from my follower group. By the way, we all have the power to do that. You can remove followers, okay? If there are people that trigger you, you don't have to follow them and you don't have to let them follow you. So I do want you to really think about those downsides, and maybe it's specific folks in your community. Do I want to interact with that person offline primarily? Do I want them to not see something? Do I want to you actually have a lot of control on the platform. And so I was like, you know what, going forward, if I share something, I'm not doing it to get likes or comments or validation. I'm doing it because I think this will contribute to the people who follow me, to my friends, to my family, to people I've met. I think this will make their lives better, or this will educate them, or this will help them discover something that I really want them to know about. I'm not doing it because I need to feel validated. I'm not doing it to see how many people view my story. And so I have my own personal practice where every time I post a story, I don't look to see how many people have viewed it. I don't look to see who's viewed it. And I don't look to see if I got a ton of hearts and likes on it. What I will do though, and I love this part, is people will DM me as a reaction to a story. Oh my gosh, how's your puppy doing? Or when are we going to have a play date? Or I loved this episode of the podcast. Or this was a really cool thing that you shared. My friend Vicky Wynn, who I mentioned earlier, she's so good about this. I love her stories because, well, she is a news anchor, so she's always about news you can use. But what's really cool is following her story. It's really interesting things, or it's funny things that happen to her in her personal life that she just wants to get a laugh. She wants you to laugh and enjoy something silly that happened to her. I really love that philosophy. And so I think that's the third thing I want to land, which is an abundance mindset coupled with the platform will never love you back as much as you love it. And so seeking validation, seeking anything out of it in that way is a dangerous cycle. And I learned that the hard way, because the guy who ghosted me, I did remove him as a follower because it was just so dangerous for my psyche to keep seeing if he looked at my stories. So I just don't look to see who's liked my stories yet or viewed them. The last thought I want to land, because I think once you know your objectives for the platform, your triggers or the pitfalls, you have an approach to how you want to think about it. I think there is, and you have the right mindset, I think there is a reality check. Social media is not going away. It's part of our life. And so I want folks who feel like, I've done this analysis and I think I'm going to walk away. I think that is a brave choice. Or I think I'm going to engage it within a way where I don't know if you need to put a time limit on it. I was asking someone in our office, like, how much time do you spend on social media? And the person said, I don't know. It's probably too much. I think that's all of our reactions. I was like, is it once per hour? You just check it for 2 or 3 minutes. Maybe you just look and examine at how it impacts your daily behaviors, how you think about it, because it is, how often do you open a bag of chips? How often do you have a cookie? What's the moderation level that's right for your lifestyle? And I think that's the last thing I will land is, this is a lifestyle choice. How does this particular interaction with these platforms, how does it fit in the rhythm of your life? What is it doing to your brainwaves? What is it doing to your social interactions? And just having a thoughtful, strategic approach, I think will make that the way in which you think about social media so much better. And I think most of us can be role models for what we want our kids to do, what we want our spouses to do, what we want our best friends to do. Because we all know, you're at the dinner table, put the phone away. You're going to spend time with a best friend, don't be scrolling unless you do have, if you're like by the pool, you're like, should we scroll? Yeah, we should scroll and see what everyone's up to. I think that creates a healthier relationship. Now, in part 2 later this week, we're going to next talk about how do you actually show up on social media? So now that you have defined your relationship with social media, how are you going to show up? And that's posting, engaging, and protecting your mindset when you're not a passive consumer, but you're actually contributing, commenting, liking, and engaging. I hope you loved this episode of In Confidence. It's a topic I'm pretty passionate about because I think it has huge impact for our self-worth and how we see ourselves. If you love this episode, please share it with someone who needed to hear it today, and subscribe so you never miss a moment of inspiration. Until next time, in the words of my 9-year-old self, I see you, I value you, and I believe in you. This is In Confidence.